what is it, April 5th. So glad to have you here. Let's start with our flag pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our four-way test, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you very much. And do we have someone for an invocation this morning, Kathy?
Yes, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren.
You know, I was just looking at a video the other day, and it was a real interesting presentation from a woman who was in front of a whole bunch of primarily Caucasian people. And her one question was, how many of you would like to live in a society that is run the same as the United States is run for its Black population? Will you please stand up? And then there was a silence. And then she said, I think you must not have heard the question. The question is, will all those people please stand up who would like to live in a society like what we have here in America? Her next comment was, that tells me very clearly that you know what that society would be like, and
Lauren,
you have chosen not to live in it.
Your audio cut out for a minute there.
Okay,
So,
am I good now?
Yeah, we heard how many of you would like to live in that society or run the country like that?
Okay. After that, she said, that tells me very clearly that you all understand exactly what that society would look like for you, and you have decided not to live there. It made it real clear to me that we do know and we do understand, and we have decided to accept a dual kind of citizenship here in the United States. And it's one of those things that I think we really need to correct. It also points out to me that we are some of the privileged ones in our society. And as I look at what's going on with our speaker today, I see him addressing the needs of many other people that are not quite so privileged in a way that we can help them become more privileged or makes their lives easier via what he's going to be talking about. So with that in mind, let's think about that and let's proceed forward.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Appreciate it. All right, are there any announcements today? If you want to raise your hand, if you've got one. Lynn, Scott, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Deb. Just a reminder to everyone, we are next week hoping to launch our Cycle of Life environmental project. The district has invited all clubs of this district to engage in an environmental project for April and May, with a celebration in the entire district for June 5th. And your green team has been working, and we are looking forward to hopefully launching that next Monday with all of you. So be ready to engage in the cycle of life of seed planting and growing and harvesting and composting. We're excited about it and look forward to sharing it with you next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you on the green team, for your work on this. It's great. Any other announcements here?
Yeah, just a reminder, Kathy had it in our invitation for today, but we are participating with White Bear, New Brighton Mounds, Rotary clubs with Are You Hungry? So please consider dropping off at my office, 2027 Rice Street. Packaged, we're looking for snack foods, so packaged snack foods. Granola bars, snacks, juice packets, water bottles, things like that, and all through the month of April. So please participate. Thank you in advance.
Lynn, I stopped by Friday but your office was closed, so I'm gonna try again. Thank you.
We're primarily open for sure 9 to 3.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, I would like to share an announcement with you. The Rotary Action Group on Menstrual Health and Hygiene is officially approved by Rotary International, and we have a 2-minute introductory video that I have to share. I helped write the storyboard for this, but hopefully can you, oh, you know what? I didn't share my sound, hold on. Let's escape this guy. I'm gonna try one more time here. Share the sound. All right, here we go. Nope, no sound, right?
No sound.
Well, I told it to share the sound this time. Share sound.
The little icon down in the left was off. It was muted.
Yeah, I clicked on that.
Oh.
There we go.
Oh, did it work? And then I quit it?
Yep.
All right. I still don't hear it though. There.
We don't see it either.
You'll have to narrate for us, Deb.
Deb, did you want me to do it?
What did you say?
Did you want me to try from here?
I still
We
didn't hear
can't
you.
see it. We're not seeing anything now.
Oh. All right, well, I would rather, let's see. Let me try one more time. So that is an exciting new venture that we have going, and there's a lot of momentum. There's already a lot of projects going on worldwide around this topic. If you grab your calendars quick, on, what is it, May 28th, the last Friday of May, I'm going to be doing the Friday feature, and I'm going to have 3 guest speakers, at least so far. One from India and one from Spain. Ane is going to present, and myself, around the topic and what Rotary is doing and how you can get involved. So Friday feature, May 28th at 9 a.m. All right. I think, is Jenny here?
Jenny's not online.
I'm standing in.
Oh, you're standing in. Oh, that's right. Ed, would you introduce our speaker for today?
I'd love to. Our speaker today is Luke Vostermans. He is a Rotarian with the RC Gibson of BC and is a team lead for their international project, Help Us Roll 1,000 Hippos. If you're not familiar with that, that sounds like an interesting title, and be curious to see what rolling a hippo looks like. On several trips to South Africa, Luke often walked with women carrying buckets of water on their heads and never thought much about it. Then he saw the hippo water roller. In that moment, he took on the role of bringing this simple innovation to the awareness of Rotary. To date, over 100 clubs from Canada, the US, and South Africa have joined in his mission. So help me welcome Luke today to talk about this program.
That's great. Thank you very, very much for that introduction, Ed. And I'm just going to put you on to screen share right now. So hopefully this will work as, there we go. So just to start my presentation, Lauren, you couldn't have given me a better platform than what you spoke about in your invocation. I remember seeing that clip and was quite struck with the intensity of what she was asking there. And, you know, like so many projects that Rotary gets involved with, we see the tip of the iceberg, and it isn't really until we get involved with the project that we really begin to see a lot of the other issues that are at play. And this one right here, of course, centers around the whole area of water, which obviously is a major theme for Rotary. And none of these next couple of slides are going to be shocking to anybody. We know what the situation is. We have the convenience over here. It's a little bit more complicated on the side of many of the developing countries. And of course, we're all so used to turning on a tap and getting our water, both hot and cold. We know that it's not that simple for billions of people on the other side of the equation. And while getting the water is one part, getting the water home, of course, is another big job. And I've spent a fair bit of time in Southern Africa. And as I was said earlier, I walked with women carrying water on their heads, and they used to laugh at me at my attempt to put that 40-pound bucket on top of my head. And it's just a cultural thing that when you're in that environment, you just accept it for what it is. But there is a huge gender issue that is at the bottom of the water issue. And our club kind of got on board with this project back in 2015. And we had some extra money sitting in our international account, and we decided to buy 50 hippo rollers and deliver them to a village just outside of Kruger National Park in South Africa. And a month after we had delivered our funds, we received a video that was taken while the women were receiving our hippo rollers. And the video was these 50 women dancing and gleeful, singing. We were awestruck by how quickly our dollars actually had an impact. And being able to see the people that you were actually impacting was amazing to us. So we knew that we were destined to do something more with this project rather than a one-off. And of course, when you get involved into a project, you go into it and you uncover all kinds of things which on the surface, no one sees. And so I want to show you something here. It's a little 3-minute video. And this 3-minute video will address how big the problem is. There's such a simple solution. we also touch into the gender issue, and there is a path forward here. So. Well, as you can see, it isn't just about water, but it's the underlying issues that need to be addressed if the whole water issue is to be resolved one way or another. So you can see why this project has really captured the attention of Rotary. It's about more than just water, and it touches even the things that I think it was Debbie that was talking about earlier with the whole matter of women or girls missing school because of their periods and stuff like that. So this has all kinds of little arms to it that go into structural and fundamental changes that need to come about in our global culture if we are to kind of reimagine the way that we live on this planet, which kind of goes back again to what Lauren opened up with in his invocation. So what happened with our project is we were quite taken, as we said, with the quick response that we got from seeing our money at work. And so we started doing a fundraiser and started a project called Help Us Roll 1,000 Hippos. And we pretty well have reached that goal now. We started, of course, fundraising within our district. And then the districts adjacent to us came on board, and then the thing started to roll across Canada. And of course, now with Zoom, it has opened up, well, basically it's opened up every Rotary club in the world, because I no longer have to travel, which I was doing before. So there's an interesting little situation here that kind of happened. So District 5060 last year came up with $30,000, which was enough to buy 200 HIPAA rollers. And the big challenge that we always had as a small club is how do we organize and how do we deliver a HIPAA roller to some community in South Africa? And you know what it's like with an international project. It all sounds really good on paper over on this side, but there are so many logistical things that go bump in the night on the other side. And it landed up being quite a chore for us to be able to manage all the moving pieces. So we had 200 HIPAA rollers that were ready to be delivered. And I got a call from a Rotarian in Australia, Charmaine Wheatley, former South African, had moved to Australia, and she had rounded up a few of her friends, and they decided to do a humanitarian trip to South Africa and asked me whether she could participate in distributing the HIPAA rollers. And of course I said, hey, be my guest. So what she did, she lined up 6 Rotary clubs in South Africa that were all kind of on the main highway going from Johannesburg to Durban. And she arranged with those Rotary club that each one of the clubs would get a certain number of HIPAA rollers. And their job in the whole project was to go into the community and vet the women and make sure that the rollers were going to vulnerable women and not being stolen or on the black market or so. So away she went. Interestingly, this was last January when they started. By the time February had rolled around, the pandemic was beginning to spread. And in early February, they were told, you better get out of South Africa and head back home. So they scrambled to deliver the last of the HIPAA rollers that they had. And one of the last ones that they delivered was to a lady that I'd like to introduce you to. Her name is Bonjoni Nazama. And the reason why I wanted to show you this little video, because it shows you the personal impact of the HIPAA roller. And while we look at it as helping those poor women over there, now that I've been part of this project for some time, even that comment there is rather derogatory, because you kind of look at these women and realize that they are intelligent people and they're taking care of the situation the best they can with the tools that they have. And this lady surprised everybody when they saw what was happening. One of the photographers that was with the group made this little video of an interview with her. And what always amazed me, there's 2 things about this video that amazes me is, one, how when given the right tool, how a woman will make the most of it and better her situation. And number 2 is what you're going to be seeing here is a short little video of a much longer one that was edited down. But here we are standing almost in the middle of nowhere in South Africa. And this woman is doing what every other woman and man on earth has been doing over the last year. And that is manipulating her face mask, which kept falling off and falling up. And, you know, and we've all found ourselves doing that. So I just want to share this quick little video with you. And then on the other side, we'll have a little conversation about where this has all gone.
Sibongo kanzana, ngihlala kwaMnamatha. Nginabantwana abathathu, abazukulu abathathu. Sekuba yimina umama nobaba. Futhi-ke kuze ngilime kangaka la engadini. Futhi ngibone nje kunesifo se-corona ngatshala. Ngakubona ukuthi hayi ngiyakuthola okungasekudleka ensimini ngoba indlala yangabhoka kakhulu kangaka noma imali ingekho ukuthi siyothenga noma behleli ngayo emsebenzini. Tshala nezihlahla obhanana, manantshi, pelepele, ma-aphula, upopo, mango, kwatapeya. Ngivimba ngoplastiki, ngenza nengadi, ngicosha iy'cucu ngihambe ngivala ney'nkomo zangena ney'mbuzi ngivala kodwa ngibekezele. Kuze kube yingaka nje ney'thombe enginazo. Iy'nkinga engibe nazo njengakuba nabo mama omama sibabili sihlukene ngamakhaya. Futhi noma ethola la kuthola emsebenzini funa kucaze phakathi unye kuphose ngala unye kuphose ngale. Kuya ngokuthi ngiyahlambe kuleli sonto uthola imali yathi ukuthi futhi asicazeke sithenge-ke. Njengomama-ke ney'ngane umama ongale nawe uney'ngane eziwu-4 la egcekeni-ke nokwakha kwakheki ngathi into kade ngayiqala ijamile ngesimanga sokuthi njengoba sibabili umhola awukabutholi kahle. Futhi akaholi kakhulu uyahola lowo mholo wokuthi akucazeke ukuthi akudliwe manje ujina ukudla ikona kube kuthathe kakhulu imali ungabisakwazi ukuthenga into ozoyisebenzisa ukwenza enye izinto. Sana ye yenzeka phela ngekho nje kompompi siyake siwalanda lapha emfuleni ezansi. Shintsha impilo ngoba ngisezokhathazeka ukuthi ngiyathwala ngiyathulula ngiyaphindela. Sengizokwazi ukudonsa noma amandla ngingenawo kahle ngizokwazi ukufaka kule sitsha ngiwadonse ngize ngifike la engadini ngisizakale.
So you can see how a simple shift in activity, instead of carrying water on your head, which limits how much you can carry and how many trips you have to make, and using a HIPAA roller, it changes the whole lifestyle at the basic level. And there are so many positive things that have come out of this whole project since we first initiated it. But as Rotarians, what excites me most about this project is when our club first started this, it was just a little club. There's 31 members that we have, and we didn't really understand fully what we were getting into. We obviously knew that there was this was a real neat project, but not the implications of how large it would grow. And it's grown now. There's been over 115 clubs now that have donated to the project. And the thing that we find the most empowering for us as Rotarians is the fact that there are so many Rotary clubs in South Africa that are now involved in this. And it really comes to focus with the Rotary Club of Hillcrest. So what has happened is that the Rotary Club of Hillcrest, which is just north of Durban, is our lead club there now. And they have taken everything off of our plate. So the Rotary Club of Hillcrest basically goes into various communities and working with other Rotary clubs. And they basically organize it all. They go to the manufacturer, which is in Johannesburg, where the HIPAA rollers are made. They pick up the HIPAA rollers there. They bring them down to the community. The women that had received the HIPAA rollers just at the start of the pandemic, the Rotarians sat down with them and said, what is it that you need that we can provide you with that would really help you manage life during the pandemic? And the first thing that the women said was, we want to start gardens. And so they said, well, what do you want? And so they said, well, some of the clubs said that the women that we're working with, they need all the basic tools, a shovel, a rake, a hoe. And other clubs says, well, no, what our women here want is they want seed potatoes or seedlings or fertilizer and stuff. So what happened with the project, because because we're not trying to manage it over here from Canada, the Rotary clubs over there have taken the whole of this project and made it their local project. So for us over here, this is our local project, or our international project, I mean. But over there, it's become their local project, and they're working with the communities already, and they know the needs of the community, so they're able now to deliver what we're fundraising with over there and put it into into their community. And it's made all the difference in the world, of course, for us, because you can see with all the little tiny moving parts, there's just no way that you could manage that from 10,000 miles away. So this collaboration of Rotary clubs, to me, is what Rotary does so well, that at the local level, we engage with our community to deliver goodwill and service into our communities. And we have those Rotary clubs over in South Africa doing exactly the same thing over there with their communities. So this project has taken off. Obviously, we called it Help Us Roll 1,000 Hippos. We don't quite know where we're going to take this now because we're reaching our goal. And if you think that 1,000 hippos is a lot, and it is a lot for a club of 32, here's an interesting fact that will help you get your head around just what our biggest challenge is. So the Hippo Roller was developed by 2 South African engineers in 1991. So that was 30 years ago. Since that time, so in 30 years, they have manufactured 60,000. So about 2,000 a year. And when you look back at that original slide that said that anywhere, 750 million women and children in hauling water every day, that 60,000 doesn't even register on the scale. When we heard those figures, it just didn't make any sense to us at all. So of course, I go to the manufacturer and I ask him, I said, what's going on here? You've got a life-giving transformational tool, and yet you've been sitting here for 30 years and you've only produced 60,000. What is wrong here? And his reply to me was, we're a small little South African company. We have no money. What we're waiting for is donor dollars. And when they come in, real-time inventory in a way, we produce what there's ordered, we deliver those, and that's it. So when I heard those words, I said, well, I'm going to change that, because what this needs a marketing mechanism behind it, so we can start scaling the Hippo Roller up, because obviously there's no question about the need. And funny things begin to happen when you talk to the women about questions that I'm asked here that maybe to us seem intelligent questions, but when you give them to the women over there, they look at you as if there's something wrong. And the biggest one was that little line in the original video where I keep being asked, well, what's the impact of the Hippo Rollers on the community? And when I asked one of the ladies that, she looked at me and she said, that's such a silly question. She said, wouldn't you want one if this was your job? And when you put it all into that context, there's nothing mysterious here. We focus on women because women are doing this chore, and there's a whole issue as to why they're doing this chore. But the Hippo Roller is nothing to do with women. It's just a more intelligent way to do a task, and so because women are doing this task, this is where the Hippo Roller, of course, is being introduced. So this little project that we started 5 years ago has basically taken off in all kinds of different directions. There's a number of clubs that are working now on fundraising. One of the districts went to all their clubs in their district and said, we want everybody to just donate one Hippo Roller, so $150 per club. And so I see this not so much as, putting all the burden on a club or two to raise the money, but this is a way that Rotary, through its a global network of clubs, if everybody just kind of came to the table and dropped one Hippo Roller into the pot, you can see what kind of impact that eventually would have. So that's kind of our project. And I know that there's probably lots of questions that you have, and I'm more than happy to answer them and bring you into this equation, because this HIPAA roller is going to be part of what the new normal is going to incorporate. So we might as well learn as much as we can about it and do what we as Rotarians can do to make sure that this lands up on the world stage.
Well, thank you so much. This is a very exciting project. I've been looking it up on Facebook as you were speaking. If you have questions, would you please raise your hand and we will call on you in order. So go ahead, Tom.
So is there a way to transfer this production to other parts of the world so that the product can be more easily delivered?
A great question, Tom. And of course, we've talked a lot about that. And the manufacturer actually has a model that he would like to duplicate. The HIPAA roller is made in an extruding process, so there are no seams or welds on the plastic, so it makes it incredibly strong. And while when I first started doing these presentations, everybody would say we should get these things made in China so that we can get them, you know, as if China can do all the scaling up at zero cost and stuff. Grant, who is runs the factory in Johannesburg, says no. It's much better if we replicate the factories on the ground in the communities where they're needed. So how we see this is that once the factory in South Africa has satisfied, let's say, the needs in South Africa, or any time during satisfying the need, the whole model can be lifted up and let's say moved over to Zimbabwe or to Kenya or to wherever the need is. And of course, the need is everywhere. And that's one way to be able to bring the HIPAA roller to the masses. But the piece that's missing in all this is before that can begin to happen, there needs to be sufficient demand that would drive the manufacturing capacity. But I think that once that begins to happen, obviously the commercial players will come in, they'll find a way to make this profitable. The price, of course, will collapse, and then all of a sudden this simple tool will be available to everybody, much the same way that a wheelbarrow is to us now.
Khadija, go ahead.
Just a second. Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I really, really appreciate this. As someone that was raised in Kenya in a small village, I know the function of fetching water. I'm thinking of the terrain and the weather and the rainy season and how to maneuver around that in such a bulky, with such a bulky utensil. Has that been addressed, and how do we maybe put Range Rover wheels on them? I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, again, it's one of the questions that comes up. What happens in hilly areas? And of course, it isn't a solution for everything. Like a wheelbarrow, it isn't a solution for every situation. But you know, I address that with the women, and I say, well, what do you do when you get into a situation where you have to pull the water up a big hill? And again, she looked at me and she said, well, what would you do? And of course, being a guy, I looked at it and I said, well, I'd probably just fill it half up as we would with a wheelbarrow. Or in a case like this, I would ask a friend and say, help me pull this roller home, will you? You know, so there are solutions. Obviously, it's not a solution for every kind of a situation. And the thing with the rainy season, we come across this all the time. So in the rainy season, of course, when there isn't an abundance of water, the HIPAA roller is more of a storage tank, and you can get options onto it. There's a filter you can put on it so that it purifies the water. You can get a little pump and stuff like that put on it. So again, what I find with the women is that they're intelligent and they'll take this tool and utilize it in the best way that they can, as you would probably know, having grown up there. And the other question I get asked a lot is, well, what happens when they break? Are they going to litter the countryside? Well, from my standpoint, I wouldn't mind seeing a few of them littering the countryside, because that would mean that it's actually had been scaled up. But I've seen HIPAA rollers made into bathtubs and feeding trays for livestock and flower gardens. So very resourceful people who are not going to let anything that they can use go to waste. So again, there's an intelligence there. And I look at it, if we take it out of the context of those poor women over there doing a hard job and just seeing this thing as a more intelligent way to do a chore, then it kind of changes the way that you look at the actual tool.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Yeah, Dave Gilberstead.
Well, yeah, hearing about Hippo roller from a Canadian and knowing that you had legalized pot, initially thought it was some sort of tool. Well, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, women have been carrying water on their head for probably literally thousands of years. Now, granted, for lots of different terrains, nothing else maybe would work effectively. But I'm surprised, that other tools weren't utilized over time for higher volumes of water. Let's say something like a sled, like Native Americans on the prairie used, or something like that to haul water with. Wouldn't those be more effective, unless you've got some real severe terrain limitations? Wouldn't those be more effective than just an individual hauling water on their head?
Well, I'm sure. I mean, the solution to this is multifaceted. When you're over there, you can, and of course, when I say there, I've spent a fair bit of time in Africa, so I reference Africa, but of course, you can go over to India or Bangladesh and Pakistan and any of these countries right here, and the need is very, very similar. So I've seen, for instance, people with wheelbarrows, and they'll put 4 or 5 of these 5-gallon buckets in a wheelbarrow. And of course, that is an interim step that you would think of doing. But the problem with the wheelbarrow is all the weight gets focused on that wheel, and it creates ruts in the roadways, in the pathways. And of course, those ruts then basically lead to erosion and stuff. So yes, it is a temporary solution for that. I mean, ultimately, the solution is to lay pipe to all the houses, which is beyond comprehension. I mean, people say that to me, why don't they just lay pipe instead of wasting money on Hippo rollers? And I look at that and I think you don't really understand how big that problem or that solution would be to lay pipe. Ultimately, yes.
Very huge expense,
yeah. We basically focus on the last mile. So we're not focusing on drilling wells. Where we go, there's ample water. Our focus is how is that water delivered from the borehole, the JoJo tank, the river, wherever they're getting it, the water source, and getting it back home. That is the piece that we're filling for this point in time. So I'm not sure, David, whether that answers your question.
No, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
This is Ted. I've got a question. Can you hear me?
Yes,
thank you very much, Luke. It's fascinating what you're talking about. And what I was thinking about exactly the question of getting things made in other countries. And it struck me that maybe a way to work on something like that might be to connect with Rotary clubs in places like Nairobi or Kampala and so on, where there may even be some manufacturers who are Rotarians. Yeah. Is that a possibility, or not explored yet?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Ted. There are so many possibilities to basically scale up the Hippo roller. And I feel that Rotary has a part to play, maybe not so much in the scaling up from a standpoint of the physical component that would be needed to scale up, like the infrastructure of manufacturing. But certainly Rotary has a role to play in bringing awareness to the existence of the Hippo roller, which is the reason why it's languishing in obscurity. It just isn't in people's consciousness. And once, if Rotary, for instance, would just play the part in bringing the awareness of the Hippo roller into the mainstream, there are players within the mainstream that are already set up manufacturing any number of things, of buckets and barrels of all kinds of different sizes and dimension that could fairly readily step in and start filling the demand. But again, the demand right now is not there because the women over there who need it don't know it exists. But the interesting thing is that when you drop off, let's say 60 HIPAA rollers into a community, you think, wow, 60 HIPAA rollers, that's going to be quite impactful. But when that community is 15 or 20,000 people, then your HIPAA roller is barely making an impact. But where it makes the biggest impact is that this woman is walking to the water source with all of her woman friends, and every one of them wants a HIPAA roller. So the demand is the demand is not there until they see a HIPAA roller, and instantaneously the demand is there. So what I see our role is to bring awareness of this, to position Rotary clubs supposedly to, or for instance, to start creating this demand, and then to make sure that there are players behind that demand who are going to step in and start manufacturing this. Because right now they're $125 a piece, which, you know, we could look at that and says, well, that's what a wheelbarrow costs. But when you look at it, if the bigger players got on board, this thing could probably drop to $50, which would put it more in the range of accessibility to a lot of the people that we're targeting in this project.
I see that Khadija has another question. Khadija, do you want to take the floor?
Yes, one more question. Water issues is not just an African issue.
No.
We know that Native Americans, African Americans in North America struggled with water issues, and I know you probably are not able to fix the whole world. I wish you could. But what would you encourage us to do? What would you say about maybe helping resolve some of these issues in Native American reservations? Because they go fetch water just like Africans do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So would this be a solution for them, or have you thought about North America and the issues of our minority communities with water?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, we have a huge issue here with the indigenous natives in northern Canada who basically have deplorable water situations. And so I get challenged at times saying, what are you doing helping the situation over there when we got our own situation here? And, you know, you can kind of get into that dynamic. I don't know what the answer to what your question is, but I know that the first piece would be to bring awareness of this thing and start looking at how can we, let's just say in North America, take this technology and bring it to where it's needed here in our own continent. And I mean, that would just require somebody to hold up their hand and say, okay, I'm going to take responsibility and start working on that. And kind of own the project at the local level and work with the indigenous communities, you know, in Canada and North America. But you're right, it's certainly not by any means an African situation. This is a global situation. And I'm only focusing on Africa because I've been there lots of times. I know the ladies, I've got all kinds of connections there. But, you know, a Rotarian from Bangladesh could jump in and say, I want to do this in Bangladesh. And I'd say, go for it. Because it is a global issue, you know, so.
I have a question, Luke. Are you collaborating with some of the other Rotary action groups like the Wash Rag?
Yeah, there are, now mind you, because the project has grown so much, there's a whole bunch of other people now that have taken bits and pieces of it. And some of it, they have just gone off on their own. There's Rotary clubs in Australia that are fundraising for HIPAA rollers and delivering them into South Africa at this point in time too. So for the most part right now, it's a group of us that have kind of looked at this whole project and said, let's get it going. But obviously there's so much room in this global project that anybody can come along and take a piece. And I like working within the world of Rotary, of course, because we have that network and we have that common bond between us. But obviously, I also address this with a lot of other groups, a lot of church groups, a lot of social organizations. And of course, everybody can see the problem. I think right now, everybody's kind of scrambling as to how they can play a part. And the COVID pandemic has actually been a real bonus because one, well, Zoom has been certainly helpful, but it really has put the focus on the need of providing the vulnerable people on the end of this who are suffering the most with the pandemic, because it also impacts food security and the gender issues and stuff like that. But with the whole world being in a very disruptive cycle right now is the ideal time to look at it and say, here is something that we could introduce at this moment in time, which would bring more intelligence to the way that we've been doing a chore for however long, 10,000 years. You know, this, to me, this is the moment in time. So it's going to take more than a little Rotary Club in Gibson's. It's kind of going to take a lot of clubs on board. And so that's all I do, is I just go around and kind of shake everybody's head and say, hey, look at this. Is there a part that you guys want to play? And let's coordinate, let's collaborate. Because one of these days, this thing here is going to land up on the world stage. And of course, being a Rotarian, I want to make sure that the Rotary wheel is sitting above it all and saying, like polio, here is an impact that Rotary has had on the global culture.
Thank you. Al, did you have a question? I can't see you. You have to unmute if you do. So
I have been waving my hand, but I guess
thank you. Go ahead, Jan.
You don't see me. It's just a small question. What a good Rotarian you are. I think you really have a heart. Your attitude toward this kind of problem, I think that is really good, that you are doing a wonderful job. So my question is that sometimes the water can be filthy and water cannot be clean to drink. So is there anywhere that you could handle that too, that problem?
Yeah, there are a number of innovations that have come to the table to purify the water. And of course, they just add on to the cost of the HIPAA roller at this point in time. But yes, absolutely. I think that there is ways. It's just like a car. You know, you can get your basic car, or you can put all the options on it and really, you know, go down the road and drive in total comfort. And again, like with this innovation, yeah, there are things that you can add onto it, or things that you can make it do that that just kind of come about because you're actually using it. A couple of things that have happened is that a couple of boys grabbed a hold of a HIPAA roller from their mothers, let's say, and they started hauling water for the other women in the community and charging a few dollars for it. So there's innovation, you know, that's already happening. One of the first things that women do when they get a HIPAA roller is start gardens. I mean, isn't that kind of obvious? If food security is a big issue for you and you have a tool to be able to address that, then we would all do exactly the same thing. Purifying the water is another thing. I mean, oftentimes the water is coming from safe wells and sources. Again, it's just a matter of getting it back to the garden. But yeah, filtering systems and little pumps on that, and drip caps so that they can drip irrigate their gardens are all little options that you can add on to the HIPAA roller, but obviously it's going to be an additional cost.
I wonder if people have questions, is there a way they could get in contact with you?
Absolutely. If you want, well, I could send the presentation, which is I do. How about I can send it to either you or Kathy, Deb, and then you can pass that link on to whoever in the club is interested. Or there's lots of people beyond our club members that get interested in this because a Rotarian spoke to them and said, hey, you know, we have funding that comes in usually from individuals who kind of see what we're doing and say, hey, I'm not a Rotarian. Can I donate to this cause? Which of course is quite obvious. So you can go up to the foundation's website, not the Rolla HIPAA Foundation's website, and it'll take you right into a payment portal and stuff like that. So
awesome. That sounds wonderful. Well, we would like to thank you for your time and for teaching us about this extraordinary project, and really grateful for everything that you're doing. And glad to learn about this. So next week, we're looking forward to the Green Team giving us some information about ways that we can help make our community more green. And I think that is it for today. Just so you know, Luke, we make contributions to the Roseville Rotary Woods. It's a rain garden locally here in honor of our speakers. So we will do that on your behalf.
Thank
And I'd
you.
like to thank you for being here.
Yeah,
So,
and thank you very much for the invitation. I really appreciate it, the time.
yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. It was good to